Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs, or you can find me personally on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Again, 2 Z's, 2 R's, double Z, double R. You guys can find me there. You can find Gorilla Brave if you want to grow yourselves. And I'm not going to jump right into it. I have some things and questions I'll answer for the audience if we get time today. But if not, we're going to jump right into it. I have a very special guest. I've been hunting him down for a while to be on the show. Maybe I've been reconning him would probably be a better word for this episode. But I have Brandon from A-Bomb Energy out of Raleigh, North Carolina. How are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm better.
Good. Okay. Let's get into your story. Let's go all the way from little Brandon to Brandon the entrepreneur, because there's a lot of ventures in here. I'm not going to spoil it for the audience right now, but obviously, if anyone's seen A-Bomb Energy, you're moving quickly, you're growing quickly, but it's come with a lot of work over many, many years. I want people to know that I've seen it. I hope they'll see it too in your story. So the mic's yours, Brandon. Just about yourself. Little B.
Yeah, so Little B was born in Germany, actually, and moved back to the United States when I was around 2 or 3. Ended up back in Germany, lived there for about 10 years in total. And then my entire life, I always wanted to be in the military because my dad was an Army infantryman. I always thought that was cool. I'd go to work with him sometimes, and we'd shoot guns and do some really cool stuff. And finally, when I was 17 years old, joined the military. Went as a chemical specialist, actually, like a nuclear guy. Hated that. Then finally switched over to Army Special Operations, became a Special Operations medic in 2019, and did that for up until the present. I get out of the military this year in October. I'm essentially out at this point. And I'll tell you what, my entire time I was in Special Operations, especially during the qualifications course, because for us as medics, it's a 3-year pipeline because the medic course is almost a year. Then you have to go through tactics. You got to go through a bunch of other training, driving, language school. Like I speak French, like tons and tons of training. And I just remembered my entire time being in the Special Operations medic pipeline, especially that course, because that one is the most intensive course in the military. It actually has the highest failure rate out of any course in the military. You can take a Navy SEALs, you can take any special forces guy. There is a 70% chance that person will fail that course. It is that difficult. And the entire time I was in that course, I used to take these things called nootropics, which are basically supplements for the brain. I heard about them from some of the instructors. I heard about it from some of the other students. And so I started taking them. And I kind of started researching them more, especially as we learned how to read medical journals, medical studies, and I started dissecting what these ingredients actually do for the brain. And then I realized, okay, for these ingredients, like the ones that I actually put in my energy drink, alpha GPC, L-theanine, and L-tyrosine, for these ones to be most effective, you need to pair them with caffeine. So then I started pairing them with Enter X energy drink paired with nootropics. And I could tell that during the training, I could tell a difference of days where I did not take nootropics. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. So then the wheel started turning. And when I was in language school, everyone was just sucking down energy drinks like crazy. And we had a energy drink vending machine out in the hallway, and that thing had to be restocked like every day. And I started thinking like, okay, somebody needs to create an energy drink with pure nootropics, not this stuff that we see out on the market now, which they're great products, but it's like they're almost at the finish line, but then they stop, where they'll use fillers in some of their nootropics. And so I wanted to stop that. So I created a drink now to where you get pure nootropics. It actually are going to do something for you. There's no fillers, and we dosed it right according to the studies that are out there on the market. And when I got back from my last deployment last year, we launched the company fully. And I didn't think it was going to take off like how it's taken off. I mean, we've ran out of stock twice now. And when I mean run out of stock, like we do a full production run of beverages, which is like 70, 80,000 cans, depending on, what kind of flavors you're developing. Like we're not running out of stock of like 50 cases. We're running out of stock of, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. And we do that routinely. I'm hoping we don't run out of stock this time because we just got plussed up, but there is a potential for that to happen. And, I started the company and technically in 2023 and did our first launch in January of 2025 of product. And it has been nonstop. And that's my story.
I've got lots of questions here for you. Let's talk about the medic thing. Let's talk about what drove you to the military, why the medic, what exactly does a medic do in the military? Because I think we need to define it because it's a little bit different than a doctor.
Sure. So what drove me to be a medic was the medic is the most important person on the team. You cannot deploy, you cannot go outside the wire, you cannot conduct any sort of mission unless you have a special operations medic. And a traditional Army medic is good, but a special operations medic is 1,000 times better, especially with trauma medications. Like I can, in trauma medicine in general, I can do chest tubes in the back of a moving vehicle in the middle of the desert. I can do basic surgeries in the back of a moving vehicle in the desert while being shot at. Like there is so much more capabilities of what we have. And the way I always explain it, whenever people ask that don't know, you have a paramedic and then you have a physician's assistant. We're kind of right there behind a physician assistant. We're like right behind it because the amount of training that we have. There's actually colleges out there that if they find out you're a special operations medic and you want to be a doctor, they don't even make you take any sort of test. They just immediately accept you because of the level of training that we have. It is insane how much they make you go through. And it's not just like a one time, okay, you take the course and training's done. It's consistent. Like if you go home at night and you're not reading some sort of medical journal at night, you're wrong because you have to constantly be keeping up with the studies. And there was periods whenever I considered myself a bad medic where I wasn't doing that. And I would go take tests and I would pass, but I wouldn't do great. And that was some of the stuff where I realized like, okay, this is a continuous learning period. And I have only just recently stopped doing it where I'm researching medical stuff because I'm not even operational anymore. Like I get out, I've actually let my certifications expire because I don't want anything to do with medicine, trauma medicine anymore. I'm just done with it. Last deployment was rough. Kind of over it all, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand. And I think that the thing I'm going to emphasize for everyone just in the audience, the difficulty, I'm just going to anchor this a little bit just because I want to anchor the skill set. The skill set is this. In a hospital, since I've done hospital food and been in hospitals, I understand a little bit how it works. There's a lot of time that goes by before surgeries are done or procedures are done, and insurance and, making sure there's no liability for the hospital, whatever, and malpractice insurance, so on and so forth, doctor insurance, general practice insurance, officers and executives insurance for the top of the hospital. Okay, all these things have to be considered before patients even touch. Usually even in an emergency, there's a long discussion or a group of discussions and a lot of research that's done usually through a computer or whatever, or backtracking or using knowledge to then do research. But on a battlefield, what we'll call battlefield, is the knowledge has to already be instilled in the human. There's not the safety net of being able to do it. As we talked about, it has to be thought about, a decision has to be made, and it has to be done then, right? So it gives you a particular different skill set. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's times where like I worked in the hospital and we'd be in the emergency room and I'd be working with a doctor or a surgeon or something like that. And they just tell me to do something. They don't ask, do you know how to do this? They just tell me to do it because they know our skill set is just that high. I mean, it is wild. I still look back at some of the training and some of the operations that I've done and medical procedures. And I'm like, I can't believe I know how to do that. And I can't believe I was allowed to do that. Like it's mind blowing. Like it's so good. Like, I mean, I still have like a fully packed aid bag, in my house and in my warehouse And I'm always ready to go. We're always ready to go if something bad happens, but, and every guy that, works here, like my brother, he works here from time to time. Like, we do medical training. Like, you got to learn some stuff, because you just never know. Basic stuff. And my wife's an RN too. So it's like, we can just bounce off each other really easy if we need to.
I love this. So let's talk about, you get the idea, you're drinking lots of energy drinks, the nootropics, you're going to start this business. How do you come up with a name, logos, idea, flavors, research and development? Let's dive into the details.
So I came up with the original name of the company actually was Atomic Energy Drink. Like, I've had this idea since 2019 and it was always Atomic Energy Drink. Then when I was going through the trademarking process, I realized, well, I can't get that name trademarked because there's like some energy bar or something like that that's not even made anymore that owns the trademark. So it's like, all right, well, dang, that kind of sucks. So I guess I have to figure this out. And so then while I was deployed actually in Africa, in Northwest Africa, my reconnaissance guy named Caleb, he goes, just call it A-Bomb Energy. And I was like, you know what? That sounds great. Let's just do that because I'm tired of trying to figure out new names. And so that's where the name came from, the design, the logo, the aesthetics for everything. I have a weird obsession. I will fully admit, I have a weird obsession with the atomic age and that whole like 1940s, 1950s, and 60s where we're just like blowing up hundreds of nukes in the middle of the Nevada desert. And we're just doing some crazy stuff and it's probably illegal. Like, it's just such a wild time. But I liked how when you look back at that period in history, there was always this time and this presence and this feeling of hope, optimism, and people looking forward to the future. That's where that whole idea of retrofuturism art came from, was because they thought we were going to be so technologically advanced. You look at shows like the Jetsons, they have flying cars, all that stuff. People were that optimistic about the future. You look at where we're at in modern times, people think we're in the next chapter of Revelations at this point. And so it's like, all right, well, I want to create a brand. I want to create a product where people can kind of get that sensation of being, happy for the future, looking forward to what's happening, and instilling kindness and generosity towards your fellow man. And honestly, it's worked very well because the people that we have that are our hardcore, we call them the A-Bombardiers. Those people are some of the nicest people you will ever meet. Like we need a truck, for example, for our company because we got invited to a gaming convention. Ironically enough, we got invited to a gaming convention in November out in Las Vegas area. I don't have a truck anymore. I sold my truck and I was a dummy and I bought a BMW. Love the car, but it's not very practical. And so I have a customer that wants to lend me his truck so we can go to Vegas. And he's just one of the nicest guys that we have out there. His name's Bill. That is the level of people that we have that are our customers. And we've created like this community now where like people have problems in their area and customers now are like coming together to like help each other solve problems. It is the most wild thing. Like businesses now are coming into our community and collaborating with other business owners that are in our community. I didn't try to do this. It just metastasized into this. And now it's like, I'm not even going to try to intervene. I'm just going to keep bringing people together at this point.
Let's talk about this because I think it's important. Let's ramp this up because you had to build the community. How did you build it? What were you doing specifically? How did you engage people with what you were doing? Because I don't think it's as simple as, I don't want to make it sound as simple as it is because I don't want to discredit all the hard work and time you put in while you were in the military. Because you were building this as you were in there over the last 2.5 years, 3 years now. Well, we said 2019, so 5 years, 6 years. But I've seen it for the last 2-ish, I would say, I believe, maybe a year. You've really started pushing it. Explain that. Explain the ramping up and then hitting the gas.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a professional filmmaker. I've done stuff with like professional companies before in the past, done like documentaries and history things. So I have really, there's few things I'll give myself credit for. And one of the things I will give myself credit for is the fact that if you give me a project to work on, I can make it look awesome. And I have no formal training in it. I taught myself. And I worked on some professional documentaries. I started then a YouTube channel called A-Bomb Energy, ironically. And I made it about cars. And I just wanted to make car documentaries because I was like, I'm getting out of the military. Maybe I can create a stream of income this way. But this is also just really fun because my other passion is cars. And so I started creating professional documentaries on cars, like the problems with, Ford, General Motors, the problem with EVs, the problem with, CCP influence in the United States on the cars and stuff like that. And so I started like doing that. And I built a community that way. And, videos were getting just hundreds of thousands of views. Subscriber count was, just growing and growing and growing. And then I started posting stuff on Instagram and talking about like cars. And, people would always be like, why is an energy drink company creating content on cars? And it was a two sides to this coin. I wanted something to do because I just love cars, but I also knew that the company was going to eventually launch and go hard. And so I figured, okay, this is a pretty good guerrilla marketing tactic to really get the brand out there because nobody's going to click a video about energy drinks. It's very few. I could create this amazing video, amazing graphics, great information. Nobody's going to click that video. But if I tell you there's problems with General Motors or there's problems with Ford and here's how we can fix them or something, that gets a little bit more attention. So then I started collecting my kind of people, car people. I moved them over to Facebook and Instagram. And keep in mind too, I'm very new to social media.
So you're doing this through photography and film in a way, right? You're connecting a passion, you're building trust through something that you can build trust with, right? Okay, go on, because I'm going to anchor this later on, but go on.
Yeah. So I'm new to social media. I've never really, I had Facebook when I was a kid, but then I knew I wanted to be a special operations guy. So I'm like, okay, having social media is going to make you a hard target, especially when you go through things like SEER school and stuff like that. Like, let's not be stupid. So I nuked all that stuff years ago, like 10 years ago. And so it's dramatically changed. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to post stuff. I don't care about like posting at the correct time or whatever. I've always heard, you got to post at this time. I'm like, I don't care, man. I'm just going to post whenever I post.
Thank you.
If it's a good post, then people are going to like it.
Thank you. Trying to cater to the algorithm takes away from authenticity and vulnerability, period. Do it when you're doing it. Someone else is in the same state you are at the time you're doing it. I love it. Yes, I agree with this 100%. And I found more success doing this than not. And I'm going to emphasize this for the audience also. Recently, I've tried switching to a method and having someone manage it and put everything on a calendar and do everything. It has negatively impacted my social media. I've lost followers because it's become so mechanized and almost routine. It's really weird. It's like they doesn't have the human imperfection anymore. But anyway, go ahead.
People like that. Yeah. People like the human side to things. Like, we talk about AI all the time, and I think AI definitely has a place. I think if you're not using AI, you might be in some trouble because other companies are going to use it. But we get people hitting us up all the time. Oh, you should make your AI, your customer service AI, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. We need to have a human connection with every single customer that purchases from us, whether it's a business or whether it's an individual person. They always get like a handwritten thank you card that actually means something. It's not just saying thank you for your purchase. We develop almost dossiers on people mentally in our head on, our hardcore customers. And we chat with them routinely to build that relationship because number one, we actually care. We want to know who they are. But two, it just makes people feel important because when people have problems with their products or, they hit up a company and they get some BS automated response, oh, we'll be with you within 24 hours. 24 hours goes by and nobody hits them up. Like that's bad. That's bad business, in my opinion. We have very good human-to-human interaction because in my job in the military, I was in a job called civil affairs, which sounds kind of like, oh, you're behind a desk. It's the complete opposite. You live in like the mud. I lived in a shed for 7 months, essentially, when I was in Africa. But our job is human-to-human interaction and connections and reconnaissance. And I got really good at that. Like, I'm really good at that job. Medic stuff's more my priority, but that job I'm really good at. And so I'm like, I'm going to take this business practice or this military practice to business. And it's worked. Like, dramatically, it's worked. I hope that helped with emphasizing that point.
No, this is very good because there's a couple things I want to just emphasize in general. One is the calling. You whatever it was, I'm going to call it God in my case, but I'm going to call it a spiritual conviction of some sort. I mean, you knew you wanted to be in special forces. You knew enough and had enough conviction that that meant no social media. I think that that's a very important key for everyone. And then by the time you were ready to look at social media, you didn't look at it as something that you needed for popularity or for friendship. It was a necessary tool to grow your personal brand and the brand of the business you were trying to create.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in following the signs and the desires of what you want to do, as long as they're moral and things. Like, I mean, when I was a little kid, it's gonna sound kind of weird, but when I was a little kid, my dad used to take me to his work and he showed me how to take apart an M16. And then I remembered how to do that. And I used to play it in my head and mime out the procedures of disassembling an M16 when I was like 12 years old. And I've always been someone who visualizes everything. I'm a big believer in visualization, whether that's the metaverse or, metaphysical, I don't know. But I can tell you, like, for me, when I visualize things, it's, it's going to happen. It's, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but it's just, I've gotten so good at it to where, like, I can play out things in my head and I can make things materialize. And I think I've just been doing it since I was a little kid, to where I've made things happen. It's wild, actually. I'm sure you probably have some experiences with that.
No, we're on fire, or should I say we've gone nuclear on this conversation. Like, because here's why. One, you can are we born with better memories, or are they developed as kids and others? Yes. How does that happen? A lot of it has to do with parent interaction with the kid, getting our children to see us in the workplace, chores. If you grow up on a farm, grow up in a household, whatever it is, getting them to mow the lawn, getting them outside, away from the TV, away from the iPads. The reason being is because I'm going to say this, because when we physically, tangibly do things, even in life, if we're meant to be a heady person and only use our mind still has to visualize things. If we don't go through the process of the actual tangibility of taking things apart, rebuilding them, mowing our lawn, building our business, scrubbing our toilets, cleaning our house, cooking our own food, there's these essential skills, an equipping that happens that you're not going to get, that makes you successful in business. And if you do eventually become successful in business without them, it's because you've had to learn them along the way. You're not going to have the story that we're talking about here, because photographic memory is this. I'm going to explain it to everyone. And someone explained this to me right around when I was 20 years old. 18 years old, Food Service Partners starts. I'm in college. We were doing all the Northern California Kaiser hospitals. We've taken on Carilion hospitals in Virginia. We're bidding on a contract to take over all the New York City hospitals right before 9/11. All these things are going on, okay? Then I'm trying to get an education, a bachelor's in business, because I'm only 19, 20 years old. And I'm not doing well, guys. I'm by my third semester, sophomore year, I failed 2 classes in college. Okay. Art history and this class about international trade and economics, which I'll think of the name in a second. It was an important class. But I was having trouble getting to class because it was voluntary, and I was trying to run a business, and I was playing soccer at the same time. But right after my sophomore year, first semester, as I had to rethink things, how am I going to manage this, soccer, life, all of it, someone said a very simple thing to me. It's like, you don't worry about reading the books. Don't worry about the homework. Just show up to class. If you get an F and at least you showed up and learned the information, you've done what you needed to do. The bonus is reading the books, but you got those, you can learn them later. And it was enough of a thing for me to understand that that's the way I'd done everything as a kid. I grew up on a farm. Everything was very visual. So as long as I could go to class, I could hear it, I could see him doing it or her, I was okay. And so as long as I never missed a class from there forward, I was guaranteed a B or better, because on average, I just needed to suck in the information in class. The rest of the information, the books, the homework, getting higher grades on that just meant extra. So it was a value proposition for me. What was I trying to do? I was trying to get as much information out of my classes that were valued to the business I was in at that time. So what did that do to my brain? My brain naturally eliminated anything it didn't need. Where if you're in college just to be a student, you don't know what you need, so you're collecting everything. It's important, guys. And so grades as an entrepreneur, or grades thinking you're wasting money in school because you're not getting a grade or you're going to fail, you just have to put it into perspective. What are you actually paying for? And
it's funny you say that, because I actually did poorly in school.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
I know the material,
yeah,
but it wasn't just interesting at all.
Yeah,
I was not a good student.
No, and neither was I. If it was art and history and it had nothing to do with businesses and I was at a liberal arts school, I was happy to get a D and move on with my life. If I got an F, oops, I'll retake the class. And maybe it's financially irresponsible, but if you're making money already, the loss in a class is not as much as the loss could be in a business if you're not paying attention. So you're weighing things at that time for sure in the moment differently than someone else. And I always laughed at what everyone else thought of what was going on at that time, because I'm sure you don't really understand your surroundings. Justin's on the computer all the time, then he's playing soccer and he's up late, and I was using energy drinks and I was using nootropics, and everyone around me was on Ritalin and Adderall. Let's just be the real stuff. And and so I just was trying not to do things like that and find ways around it. But I did find that food, healthier diets, natural foods really helped. And then when I discovered nootropics in around 2018, I would say 2019, on a greater level, truly getting an understanding of them beyond what I had already knew in healthcare, it definitely changes the mind and the brain fog and the ability to focus and energize. Even if my body's tired, my brain's going.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's dive into the nootropics. I can never say them correctly. Nootropics, 2 O's throws me off. I don't know why. But anyway,
it's not natural.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, nootropics are basically, the way I always explain it to people, they're basically supplements for the brain. A lot of us take supplements like creatine, protein powder, beta-alanine, and things like that to help us in gym performance, but we never take anything for our brain. And the brain is your command center. And it's like, well, why would you not take something that's going to make your command center better? And I could tell you, back when I was in the special operations pipeline, and, we got tested, especially in the medical course, we got tested once a week. And I made sure that I had my pills ready to rock that morning, because the difference in memory retention, the difference in information recall, motivation, clearing brain fog was real, and I could feel it. And at first I thought it was kind of placebo. So I started doing tests on myself, like, okay, well, I'm just going to have an energy drink today and let's see what happens. Or, I'm just going to have, the nootropic pills and let's see what happens. But I never felt the same unless I paired them together. And I started thinking about it, like looking at the science behind it. And, things that are going to affect your brain have to cross this semi-permeable structure in your body called the blood-brain barrier. Very few things that can cross it. And, these nootropics that we use, they cross it. And if you want to speed things up, if we go to bro science, if you want to do something like the ephedrine, caffeine, aspirin stack,
Nerd me out. You're going to nerd me out. I want to talk this. Keep going, because this is very important. How our body absorbs it and what it needs to be matched with also to absorb things. We fail to understand as a general population. We think that just because it's good for humans that we should take it. But sometimes if it's not paired properly, all it's doing is passing through us. And so this is one of these conversations. So let's talk about this. So keep going, because I'm nerding out because I don't know how to explain this to people when they come at me. Well, why don't you do this? And you need to eat this. Well, it does me no good if I'm not pairing it properly.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And so if the bro science where people do the ECA stack, if you take just ephedrine and aspirin, okay, you'll get some benefits. But if you pair it with caffeine, it has this term called the synergistic effect, where then now it basically supercharges it through your system to get it to your brain and throughout your body faster. The same concept applies to nootropics because they have to cross that blood-brain barrier. So by adding caffeine, where it's going to, make your blood pressure increase slightly depending on your caffeine tolerance and things like that, it's going to get to your body faster because caffeine is a natural nootropic or nootropic, however people want to say it. Those are the things that people need to add into their diet. And if you want to look at what pairs with what, there's tons of literature out there on how to get the most. I mean, because you can apply these things to food. It's not just chemical ingredients that are found naturally in foods. Like people think alpha GPC is one that we use. That is probably the most powerful nootropic that we have out there. And alpha GPC, for people that don't know, that is basically the precursor to acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the thing in your brain that gives you the go signal. And while this portion here that I'm getting ready to say hasn't been studied, this is just what I'm hypothesizing. I think that because life is so difficult, we're constantly stimulated by screens, by things in our surroundings, whether it's traffic. If you're like me, you're always looking for a threat. You're always on your phone. You're always doing something. I don't power down until about 2 a.m. If you're like me, you're probably deficient in alpha GPC. You're probably, or in acetylcholine. So by taking alpha GPC, if you feel something, you feel like a pretty heavy effect like me, that's probably a sign you're deficient. Now, I can't medically say, yes, this is the truth. But the amount of reports that I've had from customers and other consumers where they drink one and they're like, I've never felt this kind of feeling before. What the hell is in here? Because normally I drink a 300 milligram caffeine drink. Yeah, sure, I get, a quick high. But with this one, something feels different in my brain. And I explained to them, these are the nootropics that are in here. We are so technologically advanced in society. We have so many studies that have been done out there on ingredients. And it boggles my mind that we are not using them in so many drinks right now. And unfortunately, a lot of drink companies that are using nootropics, I know we're the only company out there right now that is dosing them properly and is not using any fillers. And the reason we do that is because we want it to be the true formula. We want it to be the true dose so you get that true feeling. And unfortunately, that's the way it is with us. But unfortunately, I think a lot of companies do it because they don't want to spend the extra money because you get
go ahead.
The pure ingredients. That essentially doubles the cost. And people say, well, oh man, $35 for a 12 pack. And it's like, okay, but you don't understand. You're comparing me to a company where they're spending half the cost of the ingredients and I still sell it around the same price.
And you need to drink 3 of them to get the same effect, just so we're talking about here, because it's not all about caffeine and it's not all about all the things that are just marketable right now. We create these things like organic that have now become a highlight organic thing everywhere. Look, guess what, guys? We were doing organic for tens of thousands of years before the Industrial Revolution. So it's not like organic's this great thing. We just put a marketing term towards it. We can turn anything into a marketing. Okay. And so the reason I want to emphasize this is a couple things. One is this goes back to the conversation of proper background, proper science, proper medical training, proper nutrition, proper dietitian work, okay, in a process, okay? Why is this important? Listen, when I learned in healthcare and long-term care homes and feeding those populations and children and the various menus that had to go through for every type of food, because that's basically what you're doing there, every diet, if you're renal, your kidneys are failing, you can't have potatoes, but someone else can have potatoes, so you're serving them rice. So there's all these variations, sauces, and whatever based on whatever ailment the human's going through. So you're also trying to deal with it from a food standpoint, not trying to make it worse. So you're trying not to add a combination to the human that makes it worse from a food standpoint. The same is true in beverages and supplements and energy drinks, guys. And some of the things that have been put together, if you really look at it, they're just put together in a sloppy way. And what you're feeling and what you're thinking is benefiting is just a quick fix and a quick down. And because the things that are in there are actually never properly absorbed in the body, no different than food. Rice is not a great thing for you unless it's properly mixed with animal fat of some sort or animal protein. Okay, it doesn't really do what it does best for you if not. And how else can I explain it to you guys? It's like, why would I not spend an extra 75 cents to put the best premium gasoline in my car, which is already depreciating, so it has more value in the long run, but I put regular in there. People do it all the time. It makes no sense to me. I get it. You want to be cheap, but really you're being even more expensive in the long run because you're not taking care of the engine in the car.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
And that's why we did that. Like, I mean, this formula too that we came up with, this took like 3 years to study, to go through the studies. Of course, I didn't know about ChatGPT can give you a synopsis at that point, so I manually read and wrote notes on all the studies, and it probably was better that way, to be honest with you. But that's why we did that, because I mean, there was just so many times where like I would drink like a competitor brand. I don't want to say the brand because they do make good products. I don't want to hate on them, but I would drink them, and I'm like, wow, this tastes really good, but I don't feel anything when I drink this. Why did I just spend $3.50 or $4 on this drink? I feel nothing, and it's like, well, I'm drinking this for flavor at this point. And I meet so many people that drink energy drinks and they're like, I just drink it because I know I need caffeine or else I'll get a headache. And also it tastes good. I'm like, but wouldn't you want it to give you energy? Do you want to feel a different type of energy? And one thing I can say that's truly incredible with our company, at least like if we look at background data and things like that, if I have 100 people buy from me, I have a 70% chance of them coming back for more online. In store, it's even higher. It's like almost 100%, which is radical. But
no, and I think, and I've seen it, and I agree with this. I'm going to pause here, and then we're going to come back to this. Let's talk about, you launched your first, when was your first production of product?
It was January of 2025.
Correct. So at this point, 6 months ago. Ish.
Yep, 6 months ago. Yeah.
So let's talk about finding a co-packer. How'd you find someone to actually launch this, package it, do everything that you needed? Because that was part of this whole process. Is how did you figure that part out?
That was honestly one of the hardest parts, because there was two things at war there. One, I didn't want to fully commit to a full production run, so I wanted to do a smaller production run. Two, most of the minimum order quantities for co-packers was very, very high. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And so I had been searching for months and months and months. And then whenever I got to my can manufacturer called CanWorks, they do like printed on cans where they don't just screen print the cans. It's like almost painted on. It actually is painted on the label is. It gives you a really premium feel. It's awesome. And I just asked a guy, I was like, bro, I'm trying to find a co-packer. Can you help me out? Like, and he just said, yep, you need to go to this company here. And I was like, okay, right on. And I did it, and I'm sticking with them. And me and this company, they're smaller. It's called BSI. They're out in Georgia. We are growing together at this point because they're a small company as well. And there's talks where we might create one facility just specifically for AMOM because how much we produce with them.
This is good. Very good. But there's one of the reasons it's happening is because of the product. So you find the co-packer, you get things going, you have to design labels, you have to pick the flavors. You launch with 4 flavors, correct? What were the 4 flavors?
So we did an orange. Yeah, we did an orange cream meltdown, which was incredibly difficult to make. Kiwi, which we call kiwi fallout. And then we did a strawberry candy, which is, we modeled that after like those candies your grandma always had, that where it's like, where do these come from? Nobody ever sees them in stores, but grandmas always seem to have them. And then, which by the way, you can get them at Dollar General, I found out.
Yeah, I
And
know
then,
which ones you're talking about.
yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, where did they get them? So I love those candies. And then we did a blackout cherry vanilla. And the reason I chose those four flavors was one, orange cream I knew I wanted to do because there was no good orange cream flavors on the market. They were either too watered down or there was too much orange, not enough vanilla. They never tasted like what it's supposed to taste like. So I was like, I'm going to figure this one out. And then blackout cherry vanilla, same thing. Could never find a good one. They always tasted like cough syrup, like I was drinking a hit of NyQuil or something. And there was really only one other brand out there that was doing it kind of right. And the other two flavors, so I looked at the palate spectrum where you had people that were like, oh, well, I like ice cream and cake more. And then the other side of the spectrum where you had people that like fruit and sour things more. So I wanted to create two separate drinks for those people. So the people that like ice cream and cake, I wanted to create two drinks for them. The people that like fruit and sour things, I wanted to create two drinks for them. I'm kind of in the middle, but I lean more towards the cake and ice cream stuff. I could eat a gallon of ice cream right now and ask for a second. I'm that kind of guy. So we did that, and instead of creating flavors where it's like, well, let's try to meet them in the middle so we can get more people to drink it. I said, hell no. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make flavors that are very radical to that side of the spectrum. And either people are going to love it or they're going to hate it. I don't want to create one where it's like mass marketed to where we can get most people to buy it because most people will be like, well, yeah, it's good, but I didn't want there to be any iffiness on it. I wanted people to love it or hate it. And it was a bit of a risk, but it's worked out very well because we have now people that subscribe weekly to our products. And we got guys that are like subscribing. They get 2 cases of orange cream meltdown delivered every week. And it's like, wow, you really like this stuff. And I get it because that's personally my favorite flavor. It tastes like a liquefied orange cream ice cream. It's absolutely incredible. And our flavor house that we worked with out in Kentucky, I mean, those are incredible people. I mean, those are some of the nicest people I've ever met. And they're smart. They know what they're doing. They're expensive, but they're expensive for a reason. And I've always been one of those people where it's like, if you pay premium, you're probably going to get a premium product. I don't know how you feel about that, but
listen, someone once said to me that, and this is very true, and I'm sorry about this. Like, I apologize to anyone out there. And it started as a kid, and I don't know why. I like traveling, don't get me wrong. But if I'm going to travel to enjoy myself, it has to be equal or better to my living situation. If I'm traveling to see nature, that's a different story, right? Or I'm traveling to do whatever. Okay, so there's a little thing. My dad worked for Marriott when I was a kid, and they tried to take me into a Holiday Inn, and I refused to go in and boycotted it because it wasn't a Marriott and try to sleep in the car. And so this thing is stuck with me, whether it's a 4-wheeler or it's a truck or it's a car. Well, if I can't buy it right now and it's not the best, well, then I'm just not going to buy it right now. And it's when with machinery and equipment and packaging and launching products, like people would get crazy in the end, and it probably caused some suffering and made some mistakes. But we were trying to do a lot of packaging during COVID, going out publicly, and some of the food quality that was coming in, not because of us, because it was so poorly handled during the COVID, chicken in particular, or pigs, the just handling of the coming in bad, coming in below grade A, even though it said grade A, we'll say things like that. And we were producing it, and you just know it's not going out. I'd rather it sit in the freezer and write it off, and that's never. So I do agree with you on the premium thing, and I do believe everything has to be done with that sort of attitude, because when you go any lesser or you don't continue to set a higher standard for your business, all you're doing is depleting and depreciating your business, honestly. So
100%.
Let's talk about, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, finish your thought there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's why, like, we chose our can, for example. We chose to not do a shrink sleeve or get the standard print on the can. Our can, just the can, not even the ingredients, nothing else, just the can with the print on label costs more than a competitor's fully complete product. That's how intense we are with it. Because I want people to hold the can and be like, I mean, I have it all the time where people are like, I love this can. I don't want to throw it away because it feels like I'm throwing away a piece of art. And we have people make artwork out of our cans. Like it's crazy. It's like, yeah, all right on, bro. That's what I love.
Well, and there's a reason. I mean, when we pay attention to details, so do others. That's important for everyone to know. If the entrepreneur pays attention to it, and by a lesser extent, the individuals around us, employees, vendors, customers will pay attention to it. I think that that's important. Let's talk about building your own warehouse. You jumped right into that.
Yeah.
Talk
So
about this.
I built the warehouse. It's not a massive warehouse, but it's good enough to start. And the reason I did that is because originally I was storing the stuff in my house and in my garage. And so I like climate controlled my garage. I sealed it all off to, prevent anything from happening in it. Laid all this stuff down on the floor. Like I made it like a sanitary. You could eat off the floor in there. I made it so sanitary. And so I was storing the stuff in there and storing it in my house. I have video that one day I'll share where I'm walking through my house and there is just hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of energy drink cases in my house. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Yeah, and I can't really do anything in my house anymore. And so I took all the profit that we made off of the first production run and I put it towards building a warehouse. And second production run came in and I still had to store some stuff in my house because the warehouse, unfortunately, they screwed up the timeline. So then I had to restore the stuff back in my house, which was not fun. But the third production run that we did, I was able to actually get all of it in the warehouse and we still have space for more. And so now we have the ability to grow more product and do larger production runs in that and store it in that warehouse. The reason we chose the specific size that we did is because it's a 30 by 40 warehouse and it's 12 feet high. We can stack shelves and stack pallets on top of each other. The second reason we didn't go any bigger is because the moment we crossed that threshold of 30 by 40 to, let's say, 35 by 45, it now exponentially increases the cost by about $10,000 to $20,000. So now, because I own 13 acres of land, what we're going to do is we're going to build starship warehouses, like on a basic training site in the military, and we're going to build warehouses all around each other that will all connect through breezeways, and it will be cheaper, it'll be more effective, and it's going to work because we'll now be able to store more product and continually grow with that size warehouse. It's a blessing. I'm so happy to have them, to be honest with you. I don't like storing the drinks in the house. That's not too fun. But, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to invest your money back in your business right from the beginning. I think a lot of people take that last bit, or they're like, oh, relief, I can have a little, or whatever. A lot of people do that, but it's not. You just, in your case, you were forced. But I think in many, many cases that if you don't really focus on reinvesting right back in as much as possible and diving back in and learning your lessons and moving forward, then that's where loss happens. It's the momentum we lose. That's not anything else. Everyone notices the momentum. So
yeah, I pay myself. I don't need to. I mean, not right now, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Every dime goes back into the business. Like we're in production right now, or in research and development for a new product right now. Not an energy drink, but I don't know if I want to say it yet, but it's something that has not been. It's been done on the market, but it's been poorly executed. There's like one company out there that's like halfway doing it right. And so we're going to fix that.
Let's talk about all the special packaging. There's a plastic bomb that you can get the can in. There's the limited edition packaging. You've gone a long way to also create things for consumers that are sort of collectible, for lack of a better term.
Sure. So I had these mini bombs created called Little Boys, and that's like what we dropped on Japan. And so I had a guy 3D print these really big bombs that can also hold a can. We don't sell those. We only give them away as gifts. And we hold contests every month where people that share our content, or they have to tag me, obviously, because I can't, see everything, but they share our content, they tag me, they buy from us, or, they support us, or they send in a mail-in postcard, just whatever. We add their name to a monthly contest, and we always pick one person every month to either win like a couple free cases, or we give them, one of those little boy bombs. But then we also created these little memento type things. And we don't sell a lot of these things that we give away. We had a friend of mine named Sean. He 3D prints little boy bomb magnets. They're about 2 inches long. And we created those where we just give those out to people that subscribe to us or heavy supporters. We then created these metal business cards that have a see-through design that it has nuclear bombs dropping from the sky. And we give those out to our biggest supporters, our biggest subscribers. And we kind of created like almost like an Amex Platinum type thing with it, where it's going to get you exclusive business or exclusive perks with that. So when we come out with new products or we have, something new that we're creating, but it's still in the prototype phase, like what we had with our fridge magnets, they get those for free. And so we're always trying to work new ways to drive more community building and community engagement. But we also want to repay our biggest supporters and our biggest customers because, they put in a lot of work for us and they don't ask anything in return. Yeah, we could have the same transactional thing that everyone does where they pay for something and then that's what they get. Okay, yeah, that's cool. That works. And that's completely fair because that's what you paid for. But we always try to go the extra mile by giving them something whenever we can. And so we're always working I created these metal coins where in the military we use these things called challenge coins. And so I created the same concept for each flavor of drink. So whenever I ship to someone that I know is military based on their address, whether it's an APO or it's going to a military base, I make sure I put one of those metal coins in there. And so we always try to, look at the human side.
Love it. I'm going to go back to this for the audience. The importance of not launching just one product when you launch something is hugely important. So many people, or there needs to be a choice. And you need to give people variety so they can try different ones who want to try it. If you're in the consumer packaged goods product, you can't just launch with one item. It's a horrible method, guys, and you lose your audience quickly, even if it's the best product in the world. You really need to think about that and get creative and do what we're talking about here, which is that's part of the reason the success and the growth here is. And you did your homework on the science. What are humans after? What is the palate? What is it like? For sure. I would say orange dreamsicles makes me think of summer camp all the time. So
it's our best seller. And especially now that it's getting hot outside, that thing is flying off. I think we only have like 3 pallets left. So that'll last probably 2 weeks. If that, probably a week, maybe. Because how much we're just selling right now. It's insane.
4th of July around the corner.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I created this thing called the atomic float, where you take Tillamook or ice cream. I like to use Tillamook orange cream ice cream, but you can use any type of vanilla ice cream or whatever. And you put that in a glass and then you pour the orange cream meltdown in there. And now you have like a lower calorie root beer float type drink. And it's incredible.
What are your plans? Where do you want this to go? We talked a little bit about warehousing. You're building a company now. You're having to probably hire employees, I'm imagining.
Not yet. No, I run. It's mainly my wife and I. And
there you go. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So she runs a lot of the operations side of like ordering ingredients, scheduling deliveries. And, I help out where I can. And I do probably 90% of the packaging. I do a ton of the writing of the thank you cards because that actually takes the most amount of time. But we play off each other's strengths and weaknesses, and I do most of the I do all the social media and customer service. And I mean, it's busy. I mean, I'm up usually at 7 and I go to bed at, I don't know, 1, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Generally, I think last night I was up till like 4 a.m. But
you and me both.
Yeah. That's the one thing that the military has really taught me, especially SEER school. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's survival, evasion, resistance, escape. And I can't talk about it too much because they make us sign an NDA, but that school, I mean, it's incredible. You could do some research online, but that school taught me how to operate without sleep completely. And I mean, it's incredible what the human body is capable of. I think when I hear people say I'm tired, I like cringe now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, oh, bro, you don't know what tired is, man.
One of the things that also is important is, I think, amongst all of it, that many individuals, what you learn is that we put ourselves into a pattern of sleep because that's what's fitting for us. That's what works, sun up, sun down. But in reality it's actually a reservoir. You can make it like an energy supply, and you can restore it, sleep when you can. Planes, trains, automobiles, military is a little different. But as entrepreneurs, we can find the time to do it when we're doing extra hours. If it's in a car or making people come to us, have your haircutter come to you, have someone come to you. Anytime you can save time, it matters. Let's talk about a little bit of the sleep thing, though, in general, because you are operating basically, you're managing a business, you're wearing a lot of hats, there's many long hours, you're trying to find time for a relationship, being married. It's a lot. 7 days a week, I have to imagine, or do you purposely take time off? Because I don't think that happens.
No, I can't.
Yeah. So let's talk about managing all of this. Let's talk about, as it grows, how you see the future. We're talking about growth, employees eventually. Like, what are some of those trigger points for you where you're like, okay, I need to be able to hire someone, or I need to be able to let go of social media, or I need to be able to hire someone that I can train to be really good at customer service? What are those pivotal points for you? Do you know?
I have an idea. So the biggest one is whenever we can afford to pay someone. That's usually like the biggest thing that I want to replace right now, is to hire someone to literally just pack orders, because that takes so much time. And I moved my brother in with me, and he helps out once in a while, but he's got, other ventures going on right now. And I can say that whenever he's packing orders and he's executing, which isn't, often, but when he's doing that, I'm able to effectively get more stuff done. The issue is it's just like being able to pay someone, because it's like, yeah, Beverage, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm sure you do, but some people in the audience may not. Beverage is probably one of the hardest industries to be in, because the profit margin is so slim, and your biggest hurdle is logistics and, deliveries and things like that, because you're shipping big items that weigh a lot. And so then we have to deal with these problems. And so I know that I view myself, this sounds arrogant and I apologize if it does, I view myself as a machine. And so I figure, okay, the machine needs this much sleep. The machine needs this much food. The machine can, add this in there, and now you have nitrous oxide, like energy drinks, nicotine, like gum or things like that, and biohack your way to perform better and to keep pumping out and getting the work done. And so I know myself well enough to where it's like I need to do these tasks during the day to where I can keep executing and continue to perform. And I want to be able to hire more people. I have people every day sending me resumes, and it's like, man, I really want to hire you, but I can't really afford that right now.
Yeah.
It's like, and so I think I'm hoping that by the end of the year, I'll have someone hired. I already have a guy lined up, and we're going to start test running him and seeing how he does. He's actually my massage therapist, believe it or not. He's actually the guy who designed the first logo for our company. And so he's game. He's ready to rock. And so I think we're probably going to hire him part-time, have him pack orders, and see how it does. But, ultimate future is I want to be able to operate like an operating room where, an emergency room where you have the patient come in, you have your nurses and all your specialized tasks that are in there. And then you have the doctor in the back telling everyone what they need to do. And he only intervenes whenever it's critical. And that's how I want to get to that point. That's like ultimate goal right now with the company.
I love it. Where can they find you online? Where can they find your business? What's your website? Sorry, I'm losing my voice, guys, apparently. Go ahead.
Yeah, people can go to www.abombenergy.com. They can search A-Bomb Energy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you type in A-Bomb Energy on YouTube, we'll be there. So if you like cars and you want to look at like documentaries on cars that are like professionally edited, like you could find that on there. But if you want to learn more about like the drinks and things like that and nootropics, the website, we have a section on there where I've taken all the major studies that have been done out there on nootropics, and I've digested them in more of a reasonable way to read it instead of like reading all this crazy information. I call myself a knuckle dragger. And so I learn best by knuckle dragging. And so I digested it into a knuckle dragger methodology, essentially. So that's where you can find me. And, you can always email me at brandon@abomenergy.com. That's usually a really good place to email me if you just want to chat with me and figure out something that's going on. But, it might take me a second to respond, but I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I have lots more questions for you, I'm sure. I would love to have you back on, Brandon, for a part 2 and like really dive into some of these things in more details, especially with the audience, especially as your business continues to grow. I know you're busy, so I appreciate your time very much and what you're doing. I think what you're doing for beverages, what you're doing from a clean standpoint in terms of the deliverance of the product, I can see where this is going and I can understand it, why the success is there based on our conversation. I hope the audience does too. Everyone in the audience, if you like what you hear, you want to try the product, go buy it, try it. Definitely want to follow on social media. You get a behind the scenes, you get the ups and downs, you get all the new drops on all the cool things that we talked about on the episode all the time. The plastic bombs, the limited edition packs, all of those things are really cool. So I recommend everyone look there. Everyone else, like, share, comment, order from the website, from their social media, A-Bomb Energy. Easy to find, type it in the search. Guarantee you'll know it when you see it based on the graphics, based on the way everything's drawn out. I love it. Based on the cans. You'll totally understand. You'll dive right into it. And then for the episode, like, share, comment. Just like any algorithm, same as social media guys, the more support the brand has, the more support they have, the more support we have, the better the episodes do, the better their social media posts do. So that is helping. That is a way to help. If you learned anything from this episode, you feel you grew from this episode, that's how you can pay your dues for your education. Give them a like, a share, a follow on their social media. So that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Brandon, I love your story. I appreciate you big time. What you're doing,
man. Thank you.
And I appreciate your service. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And we're out.